Hello and welcome to Rappler Talk. I'm Akor Arceo and we're here at the Land Transportation Office in Quezon City to talk about Republic Act 10913 or the new Anti-Distracted Driving Law. Joining us here today is LTO Law Enforcement Service Director Francis Ray Almora. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Yeah, thank you for giving us this opportunity to join the Rappler group and to explain the new law to our listeners and viewers.
So, sir, of course, the law is very new. It was just implemented on May 18. It took effect May 18. First, let's go through the basics. The law prohibits motorists from using cell phones and other gadgets like tablets. And what exactly are the activities that I cannot do while I'm behind the wheel?
There are two main provisions of the law that treats on the gadgets that will be used to make and receive calls. And the other aspect of the law is on gadgets that will be used for surfing the web, watching movies, calculating, and such other acts. So, yun po yung dalawa na, these are the two acts that is prohibited by the general provisions of the law.
Yeah, even playing games and then e-books also.
Yes, reading e-books. Yeah, these are the so-called distracted activities or distracting activities of the driver.
And then this covers all vehicles using public roads. So can you enumerate for us the vehicles that are covered under the law?
Under the law, it covers all motor vehicles. So these are those vehicles that are powered, aside from human power. But this law expanded its coverage. It covered those that are not traditionally under the jurisdiction of LTO, such as the construction equipment, the agricultural equipment, even bicycles, which are human powered, sleds, which is animal powered, and chariots. So it really addresses all those that may use the highways or the roads that may cause accident.
Yes, or even kalesas or horse-drawn carriages.
Yes, these are the carriages and sleds, chariots. So these are similar mode of transportation that are covered by this law.
And we understand also, sir, there are exemptions to this law when it's urgent that you have to call or you have to text. In what instances can I take out my cell phone and I won't get apprehended for doing so?
Okay, so the action that is contemplated as a violation is using these devices while driving a motor vehicle. So the exemption is you are driving and you are a witness of an incident or something happening, then you have to report this to the authorities as you drive. So these are the exemptions. And of course, medical practitioners that are giving medical advices while they are driving, which is a matter of life and death. These emergency crews that are responding, like maybe to a fire, to a crime, that they need some direction, so they have to use the transceiver or their mobile phones. So these are the exemptions.
Sir, in those cases, do the motorists have to pull over? For example, I have an emergency. Do I have to still go to the side of the road before making that call? Or can I just continue driving while I'm on my phone and it's an emergency case?
You can continue driving, actually. That is an exemption of the law. If these are emergency cases, so you can continue driving and use your device, but to place a call and receive that call. If it is not emergency, you have to, of course, to pull over in a safe place that you will not cause any obstruction or further incident or accidents, and that's the time you will use your device. But generally, the provision on exemption, it allows you to make those emergency calls.
And then also there's the hands-free function.
The hands-free function is another exemption of the law. So aside from the emergency situation, it also provides an exemption on hands-free. So we expand further this hands-free because there's a condition. You can use a hands-free device but it must be placed in such a manner that it will not obstruct or distract the driver. So that's a condition, the general condition that you have to satisfy if you will use a hands-free, if you will use your device hands-free.
Yeah. Speaking of hands-free, sir, that's one of the biggest things now that people are asking about on social media, because it's a gray area. First, they're asking, how do you define line of sight, and will it be subjective? For example, if can a motorist argue that it is not obstructing my view? So what is the clear guideline for determining line of sight? Where can they place their mounted cell phones or other gadgets on their car?
This is subject, of course, for some technicalities, but generally, we say that the line of sight is where, if you are sitting and you're looking straight, that's your line of sight, eye level, so they say. But then, in our law, it says that the driver must be at all times aware of his surroundings by looking at the side mirrors on the left and the right and the center mirror. So if that is the case, that's a requirement for the driver, that he must exercise due caution as a driver to ensure that there are no accidents that will happen in his on his driving. We can say then that the line of sight of the driver includes the side mirrors
So
and the rear view mirror.
it cannot be obstructed.
It cannot be obstructed.
So where can in which part of the dashboard can they place the
Below
cell
the
phone or
dashboard.
Below.
We cannot actually recommend a particular place because each type of a vehicle, each model has a different configuration. So where, if we will say you place it here, it might not be available in other models. So is that it might cause further confusion if we will say that you can place it in your air vent or air con vent, those things. So what we are saying is you have to keep your line of sight clear. You have to place all the gadgets below that dashboard.
So for example now, plenty of dash cams. This is the mirror, and then you have the dash cam here. I think I read that the LTO is recommending or advising that you place it behind. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Because while it is not watching movie, the fact that you are monitoring the back monitor of the device is already tantamount to that act. So there are that there is such provision, there are such similar acts. So this is covered by this law. So what we are recommending is, if you have a dashboard cam, put it at the back of the center mirror so that you can no longer be distracted with the actions or the motions at the monitor, or you can place this on the visor so that you can you will not be distracted while you are driving.
So it can't be on the sides of the mirror or below the mirror. It has to be behind it.
It has to be behind it.
And then for the cell phone, anything below.
It must be placed below.
But can it obstruct the speedometer? No.
Oh, well, if you will place it just in front of you, then it could be a distracted driving just the same, because that's that could be part of your line of sight. So what we are saying is, if we are allowed to further recommend in the drafting of our MC, we would recommend that there should be no devices within the cockpit of the driver, within reach of the driver, because any device within the reach of a driver may actually cause distraction while driving, whether this is hands-free or when it rings and you attempt to get it, that could be a distraction.
Sir, how about for Google Maps and Waze, especially for ride-hailing services like Uber and Grab, who rely on navigation apps? So if they can't reach their devices, does it mean they'll have to rely on the audio?
They have to, because the law did not provide any exemptions for them. So this TNBS would have to maybe they have to find other ways to do this. They have to, if they are practicing now that they touch their mobile devices while they are driving, maybe it's high time for them to change their habit or their practice, and they have to devise other ways to access the navigational devices, not in contrary to the provisions of the law.
But just to clarify, sir, that particular provision is still being considered. The particular provision about not being able to reach any gadget.
Yeah, we are just saying that if we are allowed in the LTO enforcement.
So you're thinking about it.
Yes, the actually we are talking with, we have some discussion, we're having discussions with LTFRB, because LTFRB is the one issuing guidelines with regards to TNVS, and TNVS service is reliant on technology. So we would like to reconcile our issuances with the LTFRB so that the TNV service will not be in violation to this law.
So you're also in talks with the ride-hailing services also to get
Yes,
their side on this.
we are also consulting them to get their side. So we're trying to reach out and come up with a common procedure on how to implement the law that is not contrary to the law. So we have to take note that this is a law, so it takes precedence all over other administrative issuances. So our executive issuances must not be in contrary to the provisions of the law.
Because some people are saying also, sir, that if you, for example, put the device out of reach, or you put it slightly lower than your eye level, they're saying it might even be more dangerous. Because what if you're tempted to look down or to look farther than what you're normally used to? What would be the LTO's recommendation for that?
Those are situations that are really hard to consider because these are hypothetical situations. So in this case, what could be the advice of experts? In LTO, we cannot claim to be experts on these matters. So for the enforcement of LTO, our job is to implement the law. We will not attempt to interpret the law as enforcer, but rather we will implement what is there as provided for.
So, sir, for motorcycles, where can they place their device, their gadget with the navigation app?
The situation for motorcycles is really that dangerous that we cannot recommend any place for them to put their devices while they are operating the motorcycle. You can just imagine an operation of a motorcycle, even if it's hands-free, just a momentary distraction of the rider, the one operating the motorcycle, could already result to an accident. So, our advice would be for these motorcycle riders to totally, again, change their behavior, their habits while riding the motorcycle. If they want to use a device, then they pull over instead of operating the motorcycle and using the device.
Sir, who are authorized to apprehend under this law? Who can we expect to catch violators of the Anti-Distracted Driving Act?
Under the law, it says that the MMDA, the PNP, other government agencies, the LGUs, and agencies like the export processing zones, special economic zones, can implement this law, and extend assistance to LTO as may be required. So that's what we are trying now to reconcile. If these agencies still need a deputation from LTO, or they don't need any deputation from LTO. So we are trying to reconcile this provision if they still need a deputation. There's no problem with the PNP HPG group because the PNP HPG group derived their authority to implement the land transportation law by virtue of the deputation that LTO extends to their individual members. So there's no problem with them. Our problem would be on other government offices or personnel that would implement this law.
So in layman's terms, that would mean you're discussing if you have to give express authority, is that it? For the MMDA and the LGU enforcers to help in implementing the law?
Yes, that's it. Because under the deputation process of the LTO, we train this personnel on the specific provision that they will be implementing. And we provide them the temporary operator's permit that they will use to apprehend and to issue in lieu of the driver's license. So we are of course referring to the provisions of Republic Act 4136.
So right now, sir, have the MMDA enforcers and the LGU enforcers been trained on what's allowed and what's not allowed under the law? Are they already aware? I mean, can we trust that they're already aware of the provisions of the law?
I have no specific information to that matter, but I can say that for LTO, when this law was already passed, we had included the provisions of this law in the modules that the deputation modules that LTO is conducting. So for the deputation modules, so we had already been inculcating on our enforcers, our deputized agents, the provisions of the law. There's a provision in the law that the LTO will be conducting the information drive. So our intention is to include during this info drive for the period of 3 months the training of those that can be deputized to enforce this law under the LTO.
Yeah, it's a nationwide campaign, right?
This is a nationwide campaign.
And now we move to the sanctions. What will happen if motorists get caught?
The fines and penalties for the violation of this act provides that if for the first violation, you will be fined 5,000. Second violation is 10,000. Third violation is 15,000 with a suspension of your license for 3 months. Succeeding violations may cause the revocation of your license. There's a special provision here that if the violation occurs within a 50-meter radius of a school by a public utility or a carrier of a dangerous cargo, then the fine would be 30,000 with a suspension of 1 year. Then there's also the provision there that the operator will be co-liable with the driver that had violated the law if they cannot prove that they had exercised due process or due prudence in the selection of these drivers.
So to clarify, sir, if, for example, it's a motorist's first offense, and then it occurs within 50 meters of a school, does that apply to all vehicles or just to the school vehicle and the one carrying a toxic substance? It
only applies to public utilities, which includes, of course, the school services, and then the carriers of cargo, and especially those dangerous cargo.
Within 50 meters of any school?
Yes, any school.
So is it 30,000 pesos plus the 5,000 or just the 30,000?
The 30,000 plus the suspension for 1 year.
So you don't add the first offense?
No, this is already, regardless if it is this is the first offense. It will now apply the revocation of license if this will again be repeated. So it's already the discretion of the head of the LTO.
So if you fall under the vehicles mentioned and you commit it near a school the second time, your license could be revoked forever.
Yes.
Forever. But the same provision doesn't apply to a private car who commits it near a school.
No, it does not. So this provision is just specific to the public utilities and carriers.
So, sir, what would happen if a motorist gets caught? Where do they pay the fine?
Of course, if it is the TOP of LTO that is used, then they have to go to the LTO. Whoever have done the apprehension will be where you will pay the fine. So what we are saying here is if if we don't need to deputize the MMDA, then MMDA will be responsible in the adjudication of the violation.
So, for example, you would go to the MMDA office in Guadalupe if you need to pay the fine if you were caught by the MMDA.
Yes.
But if an LTO officer made the apprehension, then you go to the LTO here in East Avenue.
Not necessarily in East Avenue. You can go to the nearest, if it is enforcers coming from the NCR. So then you have to go to the agency where your license will be transmitted.
But the fund, sir, how will the accounting for the fine go? Like, if for example, a Makati enforcer is the one that makes the apprehension, the fine goes to the city of Makati? Is that how or have we discussed the nitty-gritty of, because if for example you apprehend 100 people a day, then they all pay 5,000. So do the math, and then if you multiply that by week, we're talking a huge sum also, especially if Filipinos are very stubborn and they don't end up following the law. We're talking about a lot of money. So have we figured out where the fines will go? Is it to the LTO or depending on the agency really which made the apprehension?
It will depend on the agency which made the apprehension. But definitely if it is LTO and its deputized agents, it goes to the National Treasury. It does not go to the LTO. All collections of the LTO are remitted to the National Treasury. And we don't have the use of that, we don't have any control. We have no share from it.
What would be their time frame for paying? Because before, I think with the MMDA, it was a week. You're given a week or something like that for certain violations to settle at a bank. For this particular law, if I have to pay the 5,000 fine or it's any succeeding fine, how long am I given?
You're given actually 72 hours to redeem your license, but not more than 15 days if you don't want that your license will be suspended. Because if you settle it beyond 15 days, then you have a 1-month suspension. That is under the general rules of LTO. So in the settlement of fines and penalties.
So when they're caught for distracted driving, whoever apprehended them will take their license.
Again, that would be something that we have to discuss.
Nothing final yet on that part.
Yes,
if they will actually get your physical card.
In general, if we will rely on the Republic Act 4136, it says there that in lieu of the license, then the TOP will be given as a receipt, and the TOP is from LTO. So we have to reconcile again this provision, that possibility or situation.
For going now to public utility vehicles, what would be the liabilities and the responsibilities of the operator along with the driver of a PUV?
It is provided by law that the operator of violators that are public carriers are co-liable with the driver. So it could mean that they will pay the fine 50-50, but whatever is the penalty, the operator is co-liable.
How about, for example, in jeepneys? Would you also consider it distracted when they reach behind them, they look elsewhere to get payment? That's one of the questions also that we received on social media.
That can be a distraction, but not under the provision of this law, not under the Distracted Driving Act. So this must be taken up again on a different aspect of the violation. It's not a violation of this law, but there are other violations under the land transportation laws and regulations being implemented by LTO with regards to this matter.
Yeah, because as we also noticed, sir, the law is very specific to gadgets, right? But we know there could be other activities. Like for women, it's common to put makeup on while in the car. And it's possible that your hands won't be on the wheel, which is, you're distracted, right? In hindsight, is there anything that you wish would be included maybe in future legislation, other measures that perhaps we can still address to make it more encompassing?
Yeah, these are situations that, of course, was not included in the law. And as you have said, these can be actions or situations that would endanger others, especially if the one doing it is the one driving the motor vehicle. Well, unfortunately, it is not covered by this law. It can be covered by other, as I've said, land transportation regulations, under the JAW, but maybe a specific law to address this would be very welcome for the LTO, because it will no longer be under just an administrative issuance, but rather it is a law that we implement.
So, sir, for your final question, we know that ultimately the law is about road safety. We want to prevent injuries or even death. But as with any law, the challenge lies in the implementation. And what are the challenges that the LTO is foreseeing in terms of implementation? What would make it difficult to implement?
The present situation and the advancement of technology, the present situation of the car owners that would like to make their vehicles like an extended home, and as such, they would like a privacy, a very private motor vehicles that you cannot peep inside. They will put tints that are one way, and all those things. These are really constraints that the LTO would consider in the implementation of this law. So we have to adapt to the situation. As you have said, the effectiveness of the law is its implementation. In LTO, we accept that we don't have that kind of manpower. We really need the cooperation of other agencies, but most of all, we need the cooperation of everyone. All road users, the road safety is our concern. It's not the LTO's only concern of the LTO. It's not the concern of the driver. It's also the concern of other road users. So even if you are just a pedestrian, you're a road user, you have your own responsibility to make our roads safe. So this must be a concerted effort by each and every one of us. And so we appeal that we will do our part in making sure that this law will be followed by all. And we always say here in LTO that we are not just after the statistics of apprehension. We appreciate so much like what we are doing now, informing the motorists of their responsibility, and then the presence of a law with the corresponding fines. But generally, what we are saying also is, as a driver, you must know your responsibility. Do not endanger others or do not endanger yourself. You have your responsibility to make sure that those that are also using the road are safe. So we have to appeal on each and everyone's what do you call this one? Probably their sense of responsibility in making this law very effective.
Yeah, because it's also in the driver's mentality. That's very important also.
It
because
is.
Many drivers think you can get away with it, so you won't get caught. Or as you say, there are practical considerations like my car is heavily tinted, you won't see me anyway. Or
yes, these things, you're just thinking of yourself and you don't think of the others, the other road users. What we're saying here is, please think of the other road users. Don't think of yourself alone.
Thank you for joining us here, sir, on Rappler Talk, and for letting us know more about the Anti-Distracted Driving Act.
Thank you. And we also wish to thank this opportunity for Rappler to giving us this opportunity to explain the provisions of the law.
That was LTO Law Enforcement Service Director Francis Ray Almora talking to us about the new Anti-Distracted Driving Act. The main message of this law is ultimately that road safety is everyone's responsibility, and the LTO is appealing to the public to cooperate. Thank you so much for joining us on Rappler Talk.